You're listening to Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong, all on Georgia Radio Network.
Welcome to episode 128 of the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast. I'm Dave Roberts. With me as always is the birthday girl, Jessica Salaji.
Woo, 32.
29.
Yeah. Isn't it sad? It's all downhill
No.
from here. Yes.
You have till 40.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the grace period.
That's when you need to start wearing reading glasses.
Well, I'm already blind, so.
Yeah, but when you can't see far and you can't see near.
I bother.
My distance vision's fine. I mean, I'm 20/20 there, but yeah, the stuff up close is getting a little too close. So, how was your week?
It was good. It was kind of a weird week, but it was good. How was yours?
Good. I talk about it every week. Being in the summertime with the supply chain getting stressed is, we're still getting work done, but there are fewer and fewer choices in the brand of equipment. There are a couple brands that just are not available, or we have to adjust a size, go up a half a ton or down a half a ton because the equipment's just not around. And part of it is we've got home builders that are going ahead because they want the projects. Everybody thinks they're important, and buying hundreds of systems at a time because they know they're going to build an apartment complex. Just going ahead and buying, several hundred of them, sticking them in a warehouse, so they have access to them.
That's frustrating.
It is, and when you all you want to do is get a family cool, and the equipment that they're not going to install for another month is sitting in a warehouse somewhere and not available for purchase by service companies like mine. It is frustrating. Nothing I can do about it. I mean, if I want to go take $1 million and buy it and stick it in a warehouse, I can do that too.
Maybe you should do that.
Maybe I should. If I had that Salaji money, I would.
Yeah. Well, you can't get it. You can't just get it with your privilege.
Exactly. Exactly. We want to mention Big Daddy Unlimited, the sponsor for this show. Please, there's a link on our webpage, and I think we release the link with every show. It's a membership club. I joined. Awesome list of manufacturers, even Class 3 stuff. They've got a really nice SBR Thompson. I mean, it's not full auto, but it is an SBR that is reasonably priced. You can buy silencers, and you just simply have it transferred to an FFL who, in the case of a silencer, you have it transferred to an FFL that can handle Class 3 items, that has a SOT, a Special Occupational Tax certification. Have it transferred there, you do the 4473, fill it out, and you walk out with your gun.
It's true. I didn't buy a silencer, but I did buy a new handgun or a new pistol recently, and I just ordered it and picked where I wanted it to be shipped, and it was there in 2 days, and went and picked it up, showed my weapons carry permit, and I was out the door. It was really easy.
Yep. And you can try it for $1 for 30 days. And just check it out. There's no obligation to stick with it. They do have a deal if you go ahead and join for a year. It's obviously less than the month by month, but there's no obligation. If you don't dig it or you don't find what you want, cancel it and move on with your life.
The only obligation, though, is that if you do sign up, you need to do so through the All in Georgia link on our Facebook page.
And that's the only way that they'll know that their advertising here is actually doing anything for them. So again, if we have anybody else who wants to advertise, I don't care if it's Bob's Plumbing, any other HVAC companies that are in the Northwest Georgia area, just keep your money because I'm not advertising you. But certainly anybody from any other area of the state, I'd be happy to advertise you. This is a hard transition to get into. Because it's sad news. Herman Cain last week passed away at 74 years old of COVID. Most listeners know Herman Cain from his presidential run. He was a CEO of Godfather Pizza, radio personality for a time, was the author of the 999 plan.
I think before he ran for president especially, but even after, I mean, it's just the scandal and the negative publicity, but he was very well liked. I mean, he was like, before he ran for president, there wasn't a whole lot that plagued him. And I think that he's just one of those like nice individuals that it's just sad that he passed. I mean, it's always sad when someone passes away, but it's just sad that somebody we've seen in headlines for so long for so many different reasons is gone. So.
And his life really is an example of how great this country is and where we've come. He was born in Tennessee in 1945. He was born in the segregated South. His quote was, "They were poor but happy." He served in the Navy, but he really made his own way. He went to Morehouse College, then eventually getting a master's degree, and he really worked his way up. And you got to think, at 20 years old, it's 1965. Being a man getting into business in the late 60s, early 70s as a black man wasn't easy, and I've never seen a bit of bitterness out of Herman Cain. Everything he put out publicly came with a solid sense of humor, and he's one of the more successful people. He went from, again, growing up, being born in 1945 in the Deep South, to being a legitimate contender for the presidency. So I feel like the last few weeks have been heavily focused on race. So let's do more of that. Breaking on the show, I had a confidential informant bring this to me, and it's a picture of a slide presentation at Paulding County High School. I have no idea if this is countywide. I don't know if this is this school. And it's on the referral policy, and the being referred to the office. Go talk to the principal. And the very last bullet point on this referral review is reduce referral disproportionality by race, ethnicity, disability, gender, etc.
And this was in a presentation for the teachers, right?
Yes, that's my understanding. This was during pre-planning. This was like in the auditorium. We'll share the picture where you see the microphone where the speaker was, and you see the PowerPoint presentation up on the projected board.
And it's their PBIS implementation plan. And if you don't have kids or you're not involved in the school system, it's not always been the thing, but it stands for Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. So it obviously, I mean, like Dave said, it's where it's different points, pivot points of the disciplinary process or the intervention process. Reduce the number of people or the number of students referred to the office based on race, ethnicity, disability, and gender. Like, I would have given anything to have a recording of what was explained with that bullet point or how. It certainly doesn't look good on paper.
No, and look, a couple years ago, and I think we discussed on the show, we had a case where cheerleaders are sitting around eating nuggets, and someone's got their phone out recording it, and one of the cheerleaders makes a joke dropping the N-bomb. Stupid. I mean, the joke misses its mark. It's not funny. But I don't expect 16-year-old girls or boys for that matter, to make, solid behavioral decisions. I mean, they're just being goofy kids. But it made national news. And in response to that, Paulding County Schools hired a director of diversity.
Is the director diverse?
She is. And I briefly thought about applying for this job when I heard that Dr. Otot was going to hire for that position, because I'm the least diverse person.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was too afraid I'd get the job. But yeah, this gaslighting, this virtue signaling, really has no place in the schools. And it was a knee-jerk reaction to being on the news and trying to appease the mob. And this was true 2 years ago in 2018 when those two stories broke, as it is now. And it seems like it's. I mean, I feel like we're all turning into Neville Chamberlain, and we're just trying to appease them.
Well, and
okay, you can have that. Oh, you can have that. Sorry, go ahead, Jess.
No, I was just. I mean, what does it even mean to say? Because if you read the exact language, reduce referral disproportionality, they're not saying like reduce the number of the referrals. They're just saying how disproportionate it is across gender, disability, ethnicity, and race. And so does that mean by when you're talking about gender, because I would surmise based on when I was in school that there are more boys that are sent to the office than girls. So are you going to write more girls up to bring up the disproportionality, or are you going to try to reduce the number of students? And how do you do that across classes when you have different teachers with different interactions and different teaching styles and different students? Like, just from a gender perspective, that makes no sense at all of how you even do that.
Well, and discipline should be dispassionate. Yeah,
it should.
I mean, you should. Yeah, you shouldn't be disciplining a kid because you're having a bad day, or you don't. I mean, some kids are a-holes, but and of course you understand circumstances. A kid that's late for class. Well, why were you late? Well, I was walking to school and it rained, and I had to dry my shirt off in the bathroom before I can come in. Oh, okay, I understand that. Or, I've lost track of time. We also, in discipline, you look for patterns of behavior. A kid that's one off and makes a smart aleck response is maybe pull him aside and say, "Are you okay? Are you having a bad day?" Versus a kid that always has a smart aleck response to everything,
right? And
that is disruptive to class. So all that's a great thing to look at. And I harp on socioeconomic all the time. That if you have a kid that's working a job to help keep food on the table at home, and their homework assignments aren't as complete because they worked till 11 o'clock the night before because they're trying to help provide for the family, you take that into a little consideration when you're grading his paper. Or a kid who doesn't have internet access, or a kid who's having to go to, as I hear so much around here, to the Chev Ronalds because that's the closest place that has fast Wi-Fi in the south part of the county. So you take that into consideration, but to say we're going to break it down, this is the same thing as we talked about the show before about wanting to track officer interactions and tickets by race.
Mm-hmm. You just can't.
So
you just can't. There's too many factors, and I mean, are you going to do it by? I mean, I want to know if they're keeping these numbers on a individual teacher basis, by class, by I don't know. How's the feedback on this been in the community? Because I mean, is this out?
This is literally breaking as the show drops.
Well, I guess we'll follow back up.
Apparently, I had some people think that I'm the guy to break it. Bring it bring it to me. Yeah, the least diverse person. But yeah, this is absolutely breaking on the show, and I'd like to get a cut out of just our conversation on this and post it out too with the picture to it. Look, this is impossible to track. If you're teaching a class that attracts more students of color, your referrals are for those classes obviously are going to be higher for students of color versus maybe an elective that attracts more white kids, or a class that attracts more girls than boys. Obviously, your referrals are going to be higher for the girls. It is completely obtuse. It's not scientific. For some people that claim to be smart and qualified to educate children, This is awfully damn ignorant.
I agree. I hope they'll have to answer for
ignorance.
it. I hope somebody will make them answer for it.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is willful ignorance. This is nothing more than trying to appease the mob and appear more woke. This is gaslighting, like I said. This is virtue signaling. This is the absolute worst of society, and this has no place in education. Your job is to educate children. If you have a kid that's disruptive, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, if they're disruptive to the class and they are ruining the educational experience of the kids around them, get them the hell out of the class. You don't keep a disruptive kid sitting in class going, well, I've already sent one black kid for referral this week. I don't think I can send another, else I'm going to be called before the carpet and questioned. Their job is to educate, and if there are disruptions in the classroom, get them the hell out of the classroom so the other 30 kids can learn.
Right.
And that is their damn job. That's what they're paid for. That's why 60% of my taxes on my property go to educating these little snots. Do it. Do your damn job. Get in your box. Leave the social justice to everybody else. In case you're wondering where I am on the subject.
I was not clear, but now I am.
So we're going to move off of racial discrimination and move on to religious discrimination.
Okay. Excited. Let's dive in.
So did you see where John Ossoff says David Perdue's ad about him was anti-Semitic?
I did, and I actually did not see the article or the ad about it, and we'll put the ad up or a picture of it. But I got the first notification from it from the Georgia Democratic Party. They sent out a press release. I want to say Monday night or Tuesday night of last week. I can't recall now, but just slamming Perdue, saying, this attack against Ossoff is just showing that, his campaign's flailing, and now more than ever, we have to combat the ugly hatred we've seen continue to rear its head in this country. And we call on Perdue to immediately fire the campaign vendor who made this ad, apologize, and take responsibility for these kinds of hurtful stereotypes. And I saw the ad, and it says, breaking, Schumer spending $3 million in Georgia for John Ossoff. And then it says, Democrats are trying to buy Georgia. And later on, I can't remember who it was, it was the American Jewish Committee's Atlanta office said, we were shocked to see this. Talking about buying Georgia evokes imagery that is best confined to the dustbin of history. Talking about people of the Jewish faith and money. Like, I did not take that from this ad at all. And I understand that I'm not Jewish, but I didn't even, there was nothing to draw his faith into it. I didn't even know he was Jewish.
Neither did I. I mean, it never occurred to me. And look, I as you know, I grew up in South Florida. I mean, I grew up going to bar mitzvahs and stuff, and I had no idea. It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't care if Ossoff is Jewish, if he's agnostic, if he's Christian or anything else. He's Pajama Boy is not going to be my pick in that race. He's just not. I was glad to see him defeated in his run for Congress. I don't like him. I don't like his politics. Mm-hmm. So I don't care. I mean, and like I said, it didn't occur to me. I mean, it's not like, all right, when you see Ben Shapiro, Ben Shapiro is Jewish. He wears a yarmulke and everything else, and he actually talks about being a member of the tribe and things like that. And he is very devout in his faith and all that. I listened to him on a podcast, and he has his own podcast that he talks to interesting people. But not getting off on too much in the weeds, but that's his faith is very out front when he talks about it. I had no idea John Ossoff was Jewish, nor do I care. Nor do I get the imagery of trying to buy Georgia. They weren't saying that Ossoff was trying to buy. It's the insinuation that Hollywood is trying to buy Georgia, that outside money, that Chuck Schumer is trying to buy Georgia's seat. The DNC is trying to buy Georgia's seat, which they absolutely are. And of course, the Republicans are trying to extend the lease on that seat, because that's what politics is. You throw a bunch of money at the candidate that you think is going to push your side, and that's just politics. But I didn't get it from the ad. I still, even reading the explanations, it's just sometimes I'll read something and I'm like, well, I didn't really take that as, but I could see how that could be misconstrued. But this is
a different
this
level.
is like, this is like conspiracy theory when you get a bunch of strings on a cork board going to different pictures that you're trying to follow the logic, and like, that dog don't hunt.
Yeah. Somebody, I would love to know, and it doesn't matter for anything other than like, I'm just intrigued as to the mindset of the person who came up with this. But I would like to know who saw the ad and drew that conclusion, because they obviously see politics and campaigning and everything through a different lens. And I'd like to know more. I mean, Perdue's team did take it down. I don't believe they apologized, at least not as of the time of recording, which I was surprised they took it down. But, I mean, this was picked up by the New York Times, like the Washington Post. I mean, it was a national news that a U.S. senator is attacking his looks. And you know, the enhancement of his nose, supposedly, I mean, if somebody did that, why did we go that it's just Faith and not like Pinocchio?
You know, it's the victim status, and I don't like it when either side plays victim. I didn't like it. I think last week we talked about Kelly Loeffler trying to play victim.
She's been canceled.
Also trying to play victim. I've been canceled. Look, there is a history of anti-Semitism around the world as well in this country. I don't see it as much anymore. I mean, I don't even hear about it anymore, because it's just not a subject of conversation, even in the dark areas of the internet and stuff. I don't see a whole lot of anti-Semitism. I mean, it doesn't even occur to me. The only time I even see a little bit of it is when like Ben Shapiro will say something and people will call him a Nazi, and he's like, really? You know, that's the only time I even hear it come up as a point of conversation. Is more like a funny jab back at the cancel culture of people trying to get him thrown off the air for being a Nazi. He's like, you need to do a little more research on me. I really hope he is not our senator. I mean, I'll take Vermin Supreme or something over Ossoff.
And not for anything other than his politics. I mean, and
that I don't respect him. I and this is again, you know, looking through my eyes of privilege. He's just a beta male. Like, I just don't respect him. Just comes off just like, like, you know, like just there. And I know that's coming to, you know, I guess that generation, your generation is not the same, you know, chest thumping, brutes like mine is, but I just don't respect him as a man.
I understand that. And, you know, it's hard you don't garner respect from middle of the road people by these types of things either.
Yeah, it's a turnoff for somebody who's on the fence, going, well, you know what, maybe I don't like Perdue or whatever else. I mean, I think this does more to help Shane Hazel than anything else. Because these two guys are going to go, you know, swing at each other, and Hazel is above the fray out there talking issues and really staying on top of his vision for this country and what he can do with that seat.
Right. I don't think I hope it dies down, because, you know, I just, it's not helping the conversation. Even the people who aren't going to vote for Shane Hazel, it just focuses on the wrong things, and I hate that.
It does, and I hate it both ways. I hate it when this obviously playing victim. I also hate the first thing out of your mouth when you're running a political ad is, as a Christian conservative, I'm like, give me your policies. I also don't like I don't like this competition to be close to Trump. Look, Trump may not be the president when any challenger or any new person going to Congress is going to be sworn in. I mean, Trump may be on the way out, and I'm not stumping for that, but I'm saying the president's coattails, especially in a state that is as purple as it is, and as close as Stacey Abrams came to winning, his coattails may not be that wide. You need to stand up and run on your own accord on what your policies are, what laws you want to pass, what committees you think you should sit on, what your qualifications are. Not, I supported the president earlier than you did in 2016. Stupid. It's just right. It's a ridiculous argument to have, and I see it in State Senate 31, where the two guys in the runoff are having a competition for who's closer to Trump. Well, I was a delegate and nominated him. Well, I've been to the White House 3 times. What? So what? You're in the state Senate. What are you going to do for the state? Shut up about Trump. Get back in your box.
I agree.
So, Georgia lawmakers farewell from COVID relief loans and support. At least 38 Georgia elected officials and congressional candidates have ties to businesses that received Paycheck Protection Program loans from the federal government to protect workers from the financial fallout caused by COVID-19.
So, how do you feel about this? Because, I mean, it wasn't illegal it wasn't illegal for them to do it, and it wasn't unethical from the standpoint of they didn't have the traditional barriers in place that they normally do, like with the Small Business Administration. So,
well, and I'll get to some of that as we come down as go in order, because there's a big difference in a lot of these. So the loans were between $150,000 to $2 million. Secretary of State, and again, these loans went to businesses ranging from law firms and car dealerships to air conditioning contractors, not me, and community nonprofits. All right, so one of the guys running for State Senate 31, Boyd Austin, born and raised in Paulding County, long time alleged member of the Good Old Boys Club and all that stuff. I don't see him at the meetings. One of his biggest supporters, Hardy family, which Hardy family of car dealerships, took something like close to almost $5 million between the two dealerships, and spent a bunch of money supporting Boyd. And of course, I've heard this from bankers. I've got bankers in my family. My brother-in-law is a commercial lender. Obviously, my wife works for a bank. That the people first in line were those who needed the least, and they soaked up millions. We talked about on the show Ruth Chris getting millions. So this car dealership, and the Hardy family owns a chunk of land that's split up between the family on Lake Road in Paulding County. That is just, giant, beautiful houses. And look, they earn their money. They do what they do. But they were first in line. They got their money in April, when any small business that was trying to keep the doors open was backburnered by the banks because they don't have the big relationship to get to the front of the line.
Right. And the money ran out.
State, and the money ran out. And this is a big supporter of Boyd Austin, and they soaked up a big chunk of, and I would say, and I have no statistics to support how much actually went to businesses in Paulding County, but they obviously went to the front of the line because they had it in April. And the question is, did they have the reserves for those corporations to survive without taking that money. And I have to believe they did. Raffensperger is CEO of Swanee Construction Company, post-tension services, which received $350,000 to $1 million in PPP loans. In a statement, Raffensperger said the money allowed the company to retain workers when the pandemic took hold. This is going to be a common theme of mine. And I'll get you to react to this. Construction did not take a hit because of COVID. Mm-hmm. Construction's still going on. Houses are going up, buildings are going up. It's still rolling.
They didn't stop working either. I mean, they may have done things a little bit differently, but every construction company down here just charged on.
And I'm seeing that statewide. I started the show with trying to find equipment. I can't find equipment because it's being gobbled up by people who are in construction. Right. Particularly if you're in large-scale construction, those projects are bought and paid for a long time before the first tree gets cut down and they start grading the property. Construction, that's one of the arguments that we had against the $600 sweetener on unemployment is, well, you know what? If your job laid you off and you're building widgets in a factory, you know what? You could go try to get on as a construction helper. Construction's still working, still hiring, they're still looking for people. I mean, at least I see it across the state. I'm on one corner of the state and you're in the other, and we're both seeing it.
Right, and I mean, construction wasn't something that had to stop. I mean, it just wasn't. Not to mention that, the state was putting infrastructure things in place, whether it be pop-up hospitals or facilities. I mean, I understand that wasn't everywhere, but there were things happening, and so I think it was. And there were a lot of people. There's a lot of people who took out loans because, I know people who took out the loan, put it in a bank account to see what happened with their business, and then were planning on paying it back in its full. And I'm not saying that I'm certainly not defending him. I'm just saying I know there are people who did that because they didn't know what was ahead. But that's a lot of money to take out, whether it's a loan or a gift or you're going to pay it back. It's a lot to take out when you don't know and your industry hasn't been impacted and you're taking from ones that have.
And full disclosure, I took not that loan, but the IEDL, the disaster recovery loan, which has interest and is repaid. And exactly that is sitting in a separate account. I did not know how this was going to affect. I didn't know if business was just going to fall off because people aren't working, didn't have money. So it will get paid back. I'm certainly not going to take the 30-year AM on it because that's just crazy. But the plan was to stick it in a separate account, give it 12 months. If we don't see a significant drop off, and we'll pay that back because I'm not going to pay interest for 30 years because I just don't carry debt. A company Raffensperger founded that is now run by his adult son also received a loan of between $350,000 and $1 million.
That's one of the things I hate about the reporting, and there's all kinds of problems with it, including, they've reported that certain people received loans and they actually didn't. But that's a wide range, and I understand that that's the bracket, but then that relies on, asking Raffensperger, did you receive $351,000 or did you receive $1 million?
Right. Yeah, and that is problematic. Like when I was talking about the Hardys, between $1 and $3 million. Well, that's a big difference for most of us. Marjorie Green, Taylor Construction, between $150 and $350 to save 12 jobs.
Thoughts?
It's multifaceted on this one. They, I believe, are a siding contractor, and they do multifamily projects. They're not the siding guys that come out and do individual houses for the most part. I don't think they do municipal and multifamily and commercial projects. Uh, here's the issue. She also loaned her campaign hundreds of thousands of dollars, like $900,000.
Yeah.
So
not a good look.
She had, even if it's not unethical, even if it's not illegal, it's a, and believe me, it's been a subject of conversation out here in the 14th, that she had nearly $1 million to loan her campaign, but had to beg for $350 to save 12 jobs for people who never stopped working. Do you think she took it because it was free?
I don't know. But it's hard for me to, it's really hard to articulate. But as a member of, it's almost worse for a candidate, because when you're a candidate, we expect you to at least hold to your values, like for the term of the campaign. And I'm not sure that that's consistent or fiscally responsible or in the best interest of the taxpayers. And it's a little self-interested. I expect that out of someone who's in Congress, but we kind of hope that our elected officials are.
It's real hard to stand on the stump and rail against socialism and handouts and then take a government handout. And I mean, she's running a campaign, specifically targeting she wants to be the AOC of the right, specifically targeting that kind of stuff and handouts and fighting socialism. And I won't let the socialists in Congress win. I'm standing up against Nancy Pelosi and AOC. And then, free money. We'll take that. Andrew Clyde Arm. No, it does. It's a horrible look. I don't know if they didn't think it would be reported, or if it would be reported after the runoff. I don't know. And I'm sure I haven't heard a response. I'm sure she's going to say she doesn't participate in the business anymore, that her husband runs it. But you can't put your campaign mailer out with you walking around in a hard hat and perfect makeup, perfect nails, like you're on the job site every day,
right? And
then say I don't materially participate in the operations of that corporation. So Andrew Clyde Armory, between 150 and 350, no job saving estimate offered.
And I don't think that's right either. If you're going to apply, shouldn't you have to give as many details as possible?
Yeah, and I'm sure if you don't use those funds for salaries, there's interest. And it gets paid back. So if he can't demonstrate,
I know, but I just feel like in the interest, he should have and on the front end, he should have demonstrated. You don't have to be correct. You could just estimate. It could change, but tell us what you want to use the money for.
And look, when the PPP was applied for, we didn't know about the civil unrest. All we knew was COVID, and that's what it came out. We had no idea about the riots and all that stuff. But right now, gun manufacturers are turning them out as fast as they can.
They can't turn them out fast enough.
You go to a gun store and the shelves are bare. You can pick up a revolver, a side-by-side or over-under shotgun, but most of the self-defense stuff is gone. Ammo's hard to come by. That's why you need a resource like Big Daddy to be able to source from all around the country, so you're not stuck just going to your own local gun store.
Nice
Second
job.
Plug. But again, Clyde didn't know at the time that he applied for it that this was going to happen. But he was also in a business at the time that was struggling before COVID, because guns, just the value of guns was down. You couldn't get anybody to buy a silencer. Ammo was in plentiful supply. So obviously the business was struggling before it, and he may have taken advantage to save a few jobs. Senator Butch Miller, Foote and Miller Enterprises, an auto dealership in which Gainesville Republican Senator Butch Miller is a partner, received a loan between $1 million and $2 million. The company estimated the money would save 69 jobs. And this is supposed to be 3 months' salary, right?
I guess. And don't get me wrong, I know how much it costs to run a car dealership, of a decent size. for 1 month. It's insane. But
right. Well, the majority of the funds were supposed to go to salary. There was a carve out for a certain percentage, and forgive me, I don't remember off the top of my head, certain percentage to go to rent or interest on real estate. And honestly, the big guys are really the only ones who will be able to present the records and fight with the SBA to get that money, to get those loans forgiven. The little guys are going to have I think a much more difficult time. One of the reasons I didn't get involved in the PPP is the documentation is going to have to be heavy on the back end. I wasn't going to give because I don't want a handout, but the documentation will be very, very heavy on the back end of that to get those loans forgiven. This is also going to be, on a side note, going to be very difficult against the argument that student loans should be forgiven when you're forgiving corporate loans.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Representative Andy Welch.
Oh,
Smith,
boo.
Welch, Webb, and White. Managed by McDonough Republican Andrew Welch, also received between $1 and $2 million, which the firm estimated would save 81 jobs. I mean, the job to dollar is better.
Yeah, I just have a hard time believing that it was needed to save the jobs when it's a big firm that, you know, they have cases all over the state of all different kinds. They have lots of attorneys. His father was very wealthy. Some of the other partners, I guess what's so frustrating is, like, I understand there were hardships, like we all experienced, you know, a lull or downshift, and everyone was affected, no matter if it was right in April or it's happening now or whatever the case may be. But I don't understand what happened to the concept of being a business owner and having a slush fund or reorganizing to make it work. Like, when did this become the avenue out?
Well, I will say the tax structure on a business punishes retaining cash.
Sure, but as an individual...
Well, yeah, as an individual.
With regard to the things that I do, like, I have I mean, not to get into too much of, you know, the business structure and stuff, but as an individual, if I'm invested in a company, I'm going to do what I need to do to save the company if I want the company to be saved.
Right. And look, when we talk about law firms, and I've spoken to some attorneys about it, they came to a screeching halt. Courts closed. Cases weren't going anywhere. Depositions weren't being had. So if you've got an office staff, there's nothing happening. There's everybody's running on reduced staff. There's you can't get a hearing. And I'm not even talking about criminal defense. I'm talking about just, like, if you're a real estate attorney, if you're a corporate attorney, nothing was happening. The clerks were down to a skeleton staff. So yeah, I understand not wanting to lay people off. But, you know, you walk in your office and you got 5 people sitting in cubicles staring blankly at you like, I guess we're just going to play solitary on the phone. So they really did see a fall off, but I also view theirs as a delay. It's not that the court was never coming back in session. It's that there's going to be a delay. That business is still there. It's not like it's just went away. It's not like the real estate crash of 08 where construction just stopped. This was going to be a delay, and court proceedings were always going to come back. They just had to. We ceased to be a country without justice.
Not to mention, they're going to come back in a massive backlog, and I mean, people have been getting arrested. Disputes have been going on. People are suing like crazy over COVID and other things. So, I mean, it's just, I'm not just going after the law firm for this particular part. I'm speaking generally. Like, I understand that businesses don't want to keep a savings account the same way that individuals do. But I just was not brought up. Like, when my parents went through rough times with their business, it was, okay, what do we need to do as individuals to keep this business afloat? And I don't see, like, I'm not saying it didn't happen, but it's hard for me to see that when you're getting $1 million from the federal government. And also, if you're elected, don't stand up there at the podium and talk to me about how you're fiscally responsible and all this blah, blah, blah when you're standing there with your hand out when you don't even know what's going to happen. Because we talked about how quickly this all came to fruition. I mean, it was like, oh, there's a virus. Okay, here's an emergency act. Everyone, like, no one even knew anything at that point.
This was always a buy down to keep people off of unemployment. Look, these firms easily could have laid people off and let them go on unemployment, and with that $600 a week sweetener, and their lives would not have been all that negatively impacted. Let's get to Representative Jimmy Pruitt, Eastman Republican, partner in an air conditioning company that received a loan of between $150 and $350, and is the treasurer of another. One company estimated the money would help it retain 18 jobs. The other, the other would get 32, would keep 32. We did not see a significant drop off in my industry.
Yeah, you pretty much worked when you were called. I mean,
not just that. I'm busy as a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest. We talk about it offline all the time. It's my business. Dave, when can we fit in recording? Because I've got the phone in my lap as we record, having texts come in from crews and making sure that everybody is where they're supposed to be with what they need to get things done. My impact is finding equipment. Sure would help if I got it for free $350,000 from the government to do that. But again, these service-related industries and construction industries were not as adversely affected as even the law firms have been. Or if you're a physician, if you're a general practitioner, and no one is coming into your office because of COVID, and you've got a full office staff, that person really does see a drop off in their business. If your corporation owns imaging centers doing MRIs stopped for 6 months. All that stuff, and you have people sitting around doing nothing. That is total. A hair salon, a bar, and this was really targeted toward hair salons, bar owners, restaurant owners. These folks that were shut down are reduced to 20% of their capacity. And that's how it was sold to us, was helping those small businesses, not car dealerships.
No, I don't. That was one of my questions when we were talking about the number of jobs saved. Like, how do we even, like, I understand there's legal definitions and stuff, but in your mind, what do you define as a small business? Like, I think mom and pop, or, something small enough where you can, like, the owner has a day-to-day role in the operations.
There are varying definitions between small and medium. There's micro, which is typically sub 500,000 micro business. And that's what you're talking about. A mom and pop, 2-3 employees. That's your micro business. But when you start saying we're going to save small businesses, and we're talking about people who own multiple car dealerships, we're talking about Ruth Chris, and we're talking about these corporations that should have reserves. That were buying stock back not long ago. That kind of stuff is a totally different definition of small business than I have. And just to round it out, this segment's going long. Is Rep. Greg Kennard is the executive director of a homeless nonprofit. Also picked up PPP loans. One loan, according to Kennard, was for more than $159,000. The other was for more than $191,000. He said the funds went toward rent, or also went towards rent.
So, my question is on this one, how do you pay your rent otherwise? Because if it's a homeless nonprofit, I mean, is it, like, I understand that they fundraise and it really, don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's not like it's rent for a hair salon or a nail salon where you base it off of business. Like, homelessness doesn't provide you a funding revenue. And
well, there has been a huge drop off in charitable donations because they do things like you'll hold a gala, you'll hold a luncheon where you have speakers that they come and talk to donors and things like that. Political donations are way down.
Sure, because people didn't know what to plan for or expect, and they're looking out for themselves. But my point is that if they, most of these entities like this, especially like for something like homelessness or, whatever, they get funding mechanisms from state, local, federal government. Those didn't stop either.
No, they did not. That's the safest place to be, is because the government is going to continue to operate. I want everyone to know these have been our opinions and not necessarily those of All on Georgia, and certainly not those of any All on Georgia reporter or any human not appearing on the show. So we only embarrass ourselves. Don't lump anybody else with us. Jessica, because we ran long and I run my mouth and got on my soapbox, let's get to closing thoughts.
Well, for what it's worth, I most of the time appreciate your soapbox. Of course, when you agree with me, but I just wanted to. Everyone's tired of hearing about masks. I'm tired of hearing about masks. I'm tired of talking about them. But I did want to just commend the Macon-Bibb County Mayor, Robert Reichert, for vetoing a resolution last week by his commissioners. They passed a mask mandate, and Macon-Bibb County is a consolidated government. That's why there may be a little confusion of why there's a mayor in a county, but they're a consolidated government, and they were going to require masks for county residents and visitors anytime they're outside of a home or personal car. He vetoed it, and he cited a number of things, but one thing that he cited that I thought was particularly accurate and that we haven't really, we've talked about, but not in this context, is that the executive, they're a hybrid government, but they operate under a sheriff's office. The executive order deputized all the sheriffs in Georgia to enforce the executive order by Kemp. And so Reichert's argument was that the sheriff's office can't enforce a mask mandate in the county. And I thought that was an excellent and legally sound argument, regardless of if you're pro mandate or not. I think it's accurate, and I just like it because I'm glad somebody used something that makes sense when they're arguing this. So that's the government props of the week.
Government props for the week. Kind words from Jessica Szilagyi. Go ahead and mark that one down as a little piece of history. I think that's been twice since I've been on the show that you've given an attaboy to government. My only closing thought is if you like what you heard, if at least if it provokes thought, if it angered you, interact with us. Share us on Facebook, on other social media. If you don't like to listen to us as an app, we are also available on YouTube. But be sure to like us, share us with your friends. Don't suffer alone. For Jessica Szilagyi, for Eric Humby, our editor, I'm Dave Roberts. Have a great week.